what could be the highest risk factor when it comes to pregnancy exercise?
I always get like the heebie-jeebies for if I hear someone went to a different trainer and they did crunches and sit-ups and planks. Running during pregnancy, there is a certain stage where you need to stop running.
You hear from healthcare providers and just, in general that you should keep up with exercise in pregnancy. I've always been an active person. And then when it came to my pregnancy, I thought, okay, well, how do I adapt or what do I need to do? My first question to you would be, what are the benefits of exercising in pregnancy?
So during pregnancy, I always compare it to running a marathon. Why would you approach something as significant and major as birth and labor and pregnancy without training for it? You want to strengthen your body for the physiological and biomechanical changes that it is going to go through. Babies who are born to moms who were active during pregnancy are actually leaner at birth, and that decreases their risk for obesity.
And now this is for like me heading into the postpartum phase. When would you suggest that you can start exercising, and how do you start exercising again?
Let's reconnect your body with itself. If you've had a baby, you'll know postpartum, you feel like your body is not your own. I could help build back up your foundation again.
Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Baby. I'm Kath McGaw. I'm a pediatric dietitian, and I'm joined by my co-host Sammy. She's our feeding therapist and lactation consultant. Hi, Sammy.
Hi, everyone.
And we are very excited today because we have our guest, Anneke da Silva, and she has come to talk to us about pre- and postnatal exercise, which we think is a really, really important topic. So hi, Anneke, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Yes, thanks, Kath. Hi, Sammy. Thanks so much for having me on today. So I'm a mom myself, and I'm a pre- and postnatal exercise specialist. I used to be doula. I'm still a doula. I just don't do the work anymore. And then I'm also a lactation consultant, recently qualified. So yeah, all things mom. You can count on me, and passionate about that.
Oh, that's so lovely. So that begs the question, what motivated you to get into the world of pre- and postnatal exercise?
So I completed my honours degree in sports science and nutrition. And then after I started working in the industry, I actually started out as a lecturer for a tertiary education college. And one of the big modules that I had to lecture for the second and third years was exercise physiology, biomechanics, anatomy, nutrition for elderly, children, and then pregnancy. So not even in my 4 years at university did we never got faced with pregnancy. Like nobody actually ever taught us that module. So when I had to now teach this to the students, it actually piqued my interest quite a lot. And from there, it was really like just this little fire that started within me, because I realized that, there's not information for moms out there. And when I realized all the changes that occur during this phase of a woman's life, how important it is be with the right person and to be able to continue your fitness journey. Because I think I realized a lot of women, they stop training when they get pregnant. And I thought, no, sure, I want to be, if I can be that woman for someone or that person that they can come to and they know they're safe, and I know how to take them through pregnancy, postpartum, with all the changes that happen, and they can still stay fit, then that would be amazing. And from there, I studied further through a company called Fit for Birth in Miami. Amazing course. And then I also did my doula, and then I did my lactation consultant, because now I really feel that it's like a whole full circle that a mommy can walk with me, because I've got normal fitness classes as well. So it's obviously amazing if I can get a woman before she falls pregnant, during pregnancy, postpartum, and just to complete that whole circle with her. And it opens up for really special connections with my clients, I feel, especially for women. It's a vulnerable stage of their life, and to have someone that you can go to that is qualified and that knows the realm that you're in, I think it's really important. So that's what my passion's built on, I think.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think it's such a needed field. And like you say, so much with Sammy's course, my course at Varsity, and as you explained as well, we hear about like pediatric nutrition, we hear about pregnancy nutrition or feed-in issues and lactation and things like that in our fields, but there's so little taught at undergrad level and even postgrad level that it's almost something we have to all go and look for beyond the borders sometimes of South Africa. And I think I always admire people who go kind of the extra mile to get qualified in a field that is very specialized. And before I'm going to hand you over to Sammy just now, and just because I know she's got lots of questions for you, but I just want to know, what are, in your opinion, is the most risky, what could be the highest risk factor when it comes to pregnancy exercise particularly? Just maybe name one or two that you see as really high risk.
So I feel the biggest thing I struggle with is diastasis recti, so your abdominal, your core muscles. That's probably the first area where you would know if someone's actually qualified in this or not. If they are doing the general core exercises and they are not looking after your core the right way and incorporating your whole deep core as well as your pelvic floor as a whole into your exercise, that is the first big risk I always get like the heebie-jeebies for if I hear someone went to a different trainer and they did crunches and sit-ups and planks. And then the second one would be, this might be a controversial because not a lot of people agree on this one, but running during pregnancy. There is a certain stage where you need to stop running, whether you were a marathon athlete or not. And that's, like I say, a big controversial subject in the fitness industry with pregnancy. But those two are the ones that I think I'm most nervous for, where I feel I wish I could get the whole world's pregnant clients just to teach them. Even if I could just teach anyone those two topics, it would be really helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so that's really interesting. And I think, like you say, there is always that controversial element, but my feeling often is, what leans in the safest space and what's a safer area to lean in. So yeah, Sammy is like nearing the end, and we've been journeying with her so lovely along her pregnancy. And this was a luck shot. This was thanks to her baby that's decided to stick around a bit longer inside.
That I'm able to be here
of this podcast. So it's actually really special. I was like thinking today that after this podcast, this baby can come, and I'm sure Sammy agrees with that.
Yeah. She could hold out for this one, and then after this, she can come. She can come.
But so Sammy, do you want to just jump in and maybe just ask some of your pressing questions in reality with what you've been through, going to go through postpartum? Jump in.
Yeah. I think you hear from like healthcare providers and just in general that you should keep up with exercise in pregnancy, but I think it's also, like you say, it's so controversial because I've always been an active person. And then when it came to my pregnancy, I thought, okay, well, how do I adapt, or what do I need to do? And there's so many conflicting opinions and advice that can actually be quite stressful and overwhelming, especially in the beginning, when you're in your first trimester and, you're still in the touch and go stage. So you don't want to do anything that's going to be detrimental. But I think sort of my first question to you would be, what are the benefits of exercising in pregnancy? And then also just touching on exercise in postpartum, what are the benefits of actually doing exercise during that time?
That's probably always the best question I always feel to ask when you are chatting about this, because a lot of times when women hear the benefits of exercise during pregnancy, it actually kind of shifts their whole mindset into any movement is better than nothing during pregnancy. So during pregnancy, I always compare it to running a marathon. And the thing I always say is you wouldn't go run a marathon. You wouldn't go decide, I'm going to enter the Comrades today and I'm going to go run it tomorrow, because that would be silly. So why would you approach something as significant and major as birth and labor and pregnancy without training for it? So it doesn't have to be this extreme high intense training, but you want to strengthen your body for the physiological and biomechanical changes that it is going to go through during the 9 months of pregnancy, birth as well as postpartum. And it's not just your physical benefits, it's hormonal benefits as well. So some of obviously the biggest benefits are there's an increased nutrition and oxygen delivery to baby, because the more you exercise, the better your blood flow, which means there will be more nutrients and more oxygen delivered to baby. So that is already a very big benefit. Secondly, there's studies that actually prove babies that are born to moms who exercise during pregnancy are actually more alert during birth and in the first few hours and weeks postpartum than babies who are born to moms who were inactive during pregnancy. Babies who are born to moms who were active during pregnancy are actually leaner at birth, and that decreases their risk for obesity later on in life. Again, lots of other factors leads to obesity, but it's already a very good start that you can give your baby for the beginning of their life. And then there's lots of benefits. There's a lot more benefits for baby as well, but for mom, it's obviously very good for mental health. Exercise is just good for anyone's mental health, but especially during pregnancy, because you don't have a lot of control over your body when you are pregnant. So a lot of moms feel like if they can still exercise to a degree where they can still feel strong and confident in their body, that's already a big step. It strengthens your posture, it strengthens, so obviously during pregnancy, postpartum, you tend to get rounded shoulders, you get a very low doses in your back, your lower back aches, you like you say, you're overdue already, so you'll know all the aches and pains that goes with pregnancy. So if you are able to strengthen and correct those biomechanical changes already during pregnancy, it'll give you a little head start on recovery postpartum. When you are breastfeeding and you always have this hunched over shoulders, all the posture changes that happen, you're going to have a weak core after baby's born, so that's going to affect your lower back. So if you can already strengthen all of those elements during pregnancy. And then of course, I think the biggest one is labor and delivery is a for the normal average woman, it's a lengthy event. It's not for everyone a 2-3 hour and you're lucky baby's born. And you need the stamina for that. You can't sleep through contractions, especially if you're in active labor. So you need the stamina, you need a level of fitness. And especially if you have a strong core that you worked on during pregnancy, it actually makes the pushing phase of labor a lot shorter. And then the baby can also take part actively in the labor process. So I can go on and on and on about benefits, but I think those are the big ones that actually plays a big role in the health of the mom and baby.
Absolutely. And I think I can definitely testify to how amazing I felt when I just did a little bit of movement, and whether that was a 20-minute walk or a stretch on my yoga mat, I would feel my body crave it. And often I didn't feel like doing it because I was either just happy from a nap or a long day from, at work. And as soon as I had done it, I was just so thankful to myself, because I was like, I actually felt so good. And so I can definitely testify to, the sort of mental benefits and physical benefits during pregnancy. And now with our mommies, where would you suggest they start? So obviously everybody's on a different sort of fitness scale. Some mommies are heading into pregnancy without any background in exercise or fitness. And then you get the opposite, where there's a mommy that's maybe was a CrossFitter or a regular gym goer. So where would you suggest that moms start with their pregnancy if they're wanting to be active?
The first thing would be to get clearance from your medical doctor. That's the biggest thing. Every client that walks in here, I have a form that they have to have their gynecologist sign with any contraindications that might be present. So that's the first thing. Always get the green light. It's always beneficial, but sometimes you might have placenta previa or whatever issue might arise during pregnancy. So always make sure that the doctors are on board with your exercising. And then from there, the best guideline to follow is not to exceed pre-pregnancy levels of fitness. So if you were someone who didn't do anything, you can still exercise, but it's going to be very low. And you're going to go for walks and you're going to do stretches. Find someone that does pre and postnatal yoga or Pilates. So it's going to be at a very low level. So movement, any movement, but that person might not join a CrossFit class during pregnancy. Okay. So if you had your CrossFit athlete, I did CrossFit with my daughter up until I think 32 weeks of pregnancy. Then I
Amazing.
developed
Wow.
but I developed other complications that I had to stop. So if you were a CrossFit athlete, you are allowed to maintain your fitness level, everything you did up until you fell pregnant, but your body will force you to start adjusting and modifying. A lot of women always say, I'm going to be doing this until the day my water breaks, and she might be, but she's not going to be able to necessarily lift or work at the same intensity, which is your body will kind of force you to scale down a bit. So just don't exceed pre-pregnancy levels. And if you were a very fit athlete before, continue as far as you can with safe exercises and no contact sports, obviously. And then just start increasing your rest periods. If you feel out of breath, you might start lowering your weights a bit. Some movements or some exercises might put a bit of extra strain on your lower back. Then you might start modifying them. So that's the best guideline I can give you for entering into a program.
So rather just listen to your body.
Yes, that's the biggest thing. Yes.
And then in terms of trimesters, so a mommy that's going, from the first trimester to the second to the third, would she need to adapt her exercises? So would you need to change depending on which trimester you're in?
Yes. So typically in your first trimester, you can continue as you were. You won't feel any different. You might be tired. You might have those initial pregnancy symptoms, but your body should still be fine. You can still continue with whatever exercise you were busy with. It's typically I've noticed around week 18 to 22, where the woman really starts saying, okay, now I feel if I'm running, even if it's a slow jog, they might feel like the baby's pushing on their bladder a lot, or they might start feeling a bit of discomfort in their lower back, or their round ligaments might be pulling and aching. So that's when I actually feel the most adjustment starts with second trimester. And then going into your third trimester, the belly's really getting bigger. The movements will be slowing down a bit. We really then focus on the certain areas of the body that really gets affected by that stage of pregnancy. So I really try to link it to the biomechanical changes that occur in the body and in the posture as the pregnancy progresses. But typically the rest gets a bit longer so that they can catch their breath, and the exercises gets a bit slower. It gets harder to get up off of the floor. So I try to adjust the exercises according to how the woman also feels. So that might also be individualized. Yeah. So definitely a difference in the different trimesters.
And in terms of, and now this is for like me heading into the postpartum phase, what would you suggest, or when would you suggest that you can start exercising, and how do you start exercising again? So what would your sort of first exercises be like, if you could give some examples? And obviously, I'm sure depending on whether you had a vaginal delivery versus a Caesar will then also differ in terms of when you're able to start up again.
So the guidelines are for vaginal delivery, once postpartum bleeding has stopped, you are allowed to start training again. For some women, that's 4 weeks. For some women, it's 8 weeks. That's also a very big range of, I remember I didn't know what to expect after I had my baby. And I think after week 3, I barely had any bleeding, but did I feel up to exercising after 3 weeks? Not necessarily. So for that, it's usually when bleeding stopped, and C-section, obviously 6 weeks, or once you've got your gynecologist's approval that everything looks good. But from there, if you then start and you join a class or you're at home, we typically, that's why I've got a specific Mommy Fit group where just my moms who recently had babies up until about 4 or 5 months postpartum are in. Because then I really start with reconnect, restore, and re-strengthening. So that is not running. It's not jump squats. It's not all these high impact movements. The first few classes are really focused on let's reconnect your body with itself. Because if you've had a baby, you'll know postpartum, you feel like your body is not your own. You're engaging your core, but you don't feel it. It's like your stomach is like, it's not there. So I really try to focus to help them to get their pelvic floor connected to their deep core again, so that can work as a unit again, so that you know how to engage it safely. And then we slowly start to incorporate that into your general exercises to strengthen the body again. And then again, we focus on the corrective exercise. So all the areas of the body, your upper back, typically is lengthened, your chest is tight because of the breastfeeding posture. Your glutes is weak, your lower back is sore, your core is weak. So I try to focus on those big muscle groups and re-strengthen to also help with posture realignment postpartum. And from there, we build by incorporating your core exercises and your core engagement with basic general exercises to get back your fitness level up, so that around 4 or 5 months postpartum, if you don't want to stay with me, you can enter your pre-pregnancy fitness classes again. And at least I had you for a while so that I could help build back up your foundation again before you just go back into fitness. And it's more than just your physical fitness as well. Hormonal is what a lot of women don't understand. I just want to touch on this quickly, especially with competitive athletes. I see this often. We follow the CrossFit community I love the CrossFit games and everything. And a lot of those women have such a big platform, which is amazing. And I love that they are still actively fit during their pregnancies, but they go back into their massive CrossFit competitive again so soon after the babies that a lot of women who follow them, the general woman at home that doesn't know about this, she's like, oh, that means after I've had my baby, I can go straight back to my CrossFit box and just go at it again. But your cortisol levels, your relaxin levels, all your hormonal changes that occur during pregnancy takes quite a while to return to normal post-pregnancy. And if you're overstimulating your cortisol too soon after pregnancy, if you're not giving your relaxin, which makes your muscles and your ligaments a bit more lax during pregnancy so that you can give birth, if you don't give that enough time to recover, you can actually injure yourself a lot easier. If you don't look after your core the right way, you can actually cause diastasis recti to worsen a lot, to the point where rehab is really difficult. And then, if your cortisol levels are being stimulated at a time where it shouldn't be stimulated, it can lead to adrenal fatigue in a time that's already so stressful for moms as it is. So there's a lot more to than just returning to physical exercise. It's about the hormonal restoration as well.
Yeah, which I think is such an important component that we don't actually think about. We just think about the main ones is the physical and the mental side of things, but hormones play such an important role, and so it is important to consider the impact of exercise on your hormones. And then just in closing, maybe you can then just give a few pieces of advice for mommies that don't have access to somebody like you or the groups that you run. Let's say a mommy that's basically on her own, and where what would your advice be in terms of exercise pre and postpartum for a mommy?
Well, it would be, again, depending on your fitness level, obviously, but any move. Any movement is better than nothing. Go for walks every single day. If you're early in your pregnancy and you only have that to your availability, you might not have access to a gym or home gym equipment necessarily. Start with long, brisk walks. Eventually, the walks will slow down as your pregnancy progresses. Movement is not only so important for during pregnancy, but during labor as well. So that can also help then initiate later on in your pregnancy, getting into labor, also help move labor along. So any movement that you can do, it will be so dependent on where you are, what you have to availability. If you don't have any equipment, you can do the basic squat movements. You can do lunges, anything that is strengthening your hips and your glutes area around the pelvis, because those are the muscles that are important during birth. I would say if you don't have anyone to your availability, avoid core exercises. I would rather say avoid them than do the wrong ones and cause more damage. And then, I'm trying to think what else tips can I give someone that's not, do what feels best for your body, do what feels good for you. And then also we usually use the talk test for intensity. So if you get to the stage of pregnancy where you can't have a conversation with anyone, so you feel you need to take deep breaths, rest a bit in between your sentences or words, you need to take your intensity down a notch, because that's an indication that you are too breathed, you're too out of breath. And that's usually our intensity indicator as well for moms. And then, no high impact exercises, no contact sports, obviously, nothing that can injure you or injure the baby. And if you're really struggling, you can contact me. I'll give you an online program. I do that as well, because I do have a lot of moms in Cape Town or people who live on farms, wherever, that they really just want to know what's safe and what's not.
Yeah.
That is probably safest, and not to just Google, because sometimes Google can give you some funky things.
Yeah.
Sure, that was amazing. Sure, what amazing advice there. Sammy, do you feel equipped now to?
I think I might be in touch. I might be a Cape Town client. But no, such helpful and valuable information. I actually wish that we had done this earlier on in my pregnancy, because it would have taken so much like stress and anxiety around what I could and couldn't do, or what was safe away. But I'm sure it's going to help so many mommies out there that are in different parts of their pre and postnatal journey. So I think it's so valuable. Thank you.
Just to
thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we will definitely post all your information, your links below, and how people can get in contact with you and that sort of thing. So everyone that's watching can just go and look below into the information about this episode, and you will have Anneke's details. And like Sammy said, the earlier you get going and get empowered with this information, the better it will be, and the journey will just be that much easier, as you've mentioned. So yeah, I think it's such an important topic that often doesn't get discussed. And I love what you said, and that's kind of our theme song when we do these episodes, is be careful of Google, because there's so much misinformation out there. People are, just putting it out there, and then it really hasn't been peer reviewed. You don't know the person who what their background is. And so it's so wonderful to have an expert like yourself who's really taken the time, the energy, and actually also gone through it yourself, which I think is also so invaluable. And it also just gives, moms who are athletes hope, because, you've come from that sort of background, and, you were able to continue doing it for a long period of time, which I think is also very encouraging. But yeah, your tips were invaluable.
I hope so. I hope it helps to let moms know that they can exercise. They're not helpless. It's not a condition. Just make sure everything's cleared by a medical doctor. Make sure if you have someone that qualified, ask for qualifications, people. That's the most important thing I can say.
Absolutely.
Ask, especially during this special and vulnerable phase. So rather ask for qualifications. Be too careful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sammy, my amazing co-host. And Mommy, to be very soon, I think you need to go for a run around the block.
I'm definitely not running, but I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk.
And lunge.
Walk and lunge. People will see me in my road and think, what a crazy woman, but it's fine.
Just want to get this baby out.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, shame. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Bye.